You're listening to Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for being here, choosing this podcast. There's a lot of other podcasts out there. And if you're here for J.K. Simmons, I hope if you like the podcast, this is a little podcast. We talk about real stuff. It's not celebrity bullshit. We get into mental health, Ryan.
It's a little bit of celebrity bullshit just to start. And then
you start with it, but then you got to get in. You can't just jump in with real serious shit. You got to dip your toes in.
Yeah.
And I hope you like the show. And if you do, subscribe. If you like the interview, if you like me, chances are, I don't know what you're going to like, but I hope you'll follow us at Inside of You Podcast on the Instagram and Facebook, at Inside of You Pod on the Twitter. And you could watch on YouTube, subscribe there, write a review, Apple, wherever you want. It really helps the podcast. Great guest today, man. This is a legend. What an actor. Sometimes you have these guys on that you're like, oh my gosh, he came on the podcast. And that's J.K. Simmons. And boy, did we talk about everything. He was really open about his life, open about, his brother comes on later in the podcast. David Simmons, very brave soul who attempted suicide twice. And they came up with this amazing organization, the UBU Project. And I was like, what does it stand for? But it's actually UBU. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's the prevention of youth suicide, addiction, and bullying through social, emotional, performing arts, integration, residencies. Look, there's a concert coming up Saturday, January 28th, 7:30 p.m. at Scottsdale Desert Stages Theater. And please head there or donate. Go to ubuproject.org for more information. Also, look, thank you for watching Talkville and supporting that podcast with me and Tom Welling, a Rewatch Smallville podcast. But don't forget this little podcast here. Patreon.com/Inside of You. Join Patreon, support the podcast. Without my patrons, I couldn't do it. There's all sorts of prizes and things and, connections and packages I send to top tier patrons, and support the podcast if you like. A little extra something wouldn't hurt. Hopefully it won't hurt. Patreon.com/Inside of You. And we need you. Also, if you want to look at the Inside of You online store, you can go there. There's autographed Smallville stuff, scripts, Leximus scripts, and lunchboxes, and Inside of You merch. And also my band, Sunspin, guys. We just came out with our new album. I have to promote it. Sunspin.com. You can go to merch, CDs, autographs, Zooms. Go streaming. Follow us on the streaming platforms. Just go to Sunspin. The new album is Never Is What It Is. There's another album from last year that we did. Really proud of it, and there's no other way to promote it than to promote to you guys. It's not like I'm a big rock star here and I can get millions of people to listen to the album. We're proud of it. I hope you listen to it. I hope you enjoy it. You can get merch there. We're doing a Stage It show, and that Stage It show is this weekend, Saturday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Me and Rob and another special guest, we are going to sing songs from the album and some covers, and it's a blast. We'll call your names out as we see them on the screen. And go to stageit.com, type in Sunspin for the 5 o'clock show next Saturday, or you can go to sunspin.com and get tickets. But really would appreciate if you've never listened to a show, I think you're going to really enjoy it. I'm very proud of it. And I believe that's it. I believe that's all. Why don't we do it? Why don't we just jump into one of the greats? Let's get inside of J.K. Simmons.
It's my point of view. You're listening to Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum.
Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum was not recorded in front of a live studio audience.
J.K., how are you?
I am fine. How are you?
I'm good. We met at the it was the benefit for the Australia, the thing they had for the brush fires like a couple years ago, and we talked, and I told you my Paul Giamatti story about how he walked in on me at a hotel when I was with my girlfriend on the bed, and do you remember that?
Yeah, Giamatti, apparently he does that all the time.
He just walks in on people while they're...
Yeah, it's like a thing with him.
It was amazing because I remember he walked in, and I don't know why they gave him a key to my room. It was an accident, but he goes, wow, well, I'm sorry. And he just left. And the next day I saw him, he was doing an interview, and we locked eyes, and he looked at me and goes, oh my God. And he ran up to me and goes, this is the best story. Can I tell this story? I'm like, yeah, of course you could tell this story. It was pretty good. But listen, I'm good friends with Jason Reitman, as I know you are. And Jason, I said, hey, I'm interviewing JK. You want to say anything? And he just said, he texts me, says, I love JK. I absolutely love this man. He clearly is the connective tissue between all my movies. He stands for a kind of craft that almost doesn't exist anymore. A sheer unparalleled level of talent matched with a work ethic you cannot find in almost any other performer. The ability to be unrelentingly terrifying and in the next moment, completely tender. One of the luckiest moments of my career was meeting him on Thank You for Smoking.
Well, I mean, that's that's goosebumpy kind of praise coming from Jason, and that meeting on Thank You for Smoking almost did not happen mostly because I'm so clueless about show business in general. I mean, I had read the script. I was going into audition for Jason back in the auditioning days.
Oh yes, I missed that.
And had to schlep all the way out to Santa Monica from my place in the hills, and the kids are in elementary school, and things are very busy at home, and I schlepped out there to the casting director's office, park my car, plug the meter, get the into the office. And I'm waiting, and as usual, you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting, and my parking meter is almost expired, and I'm thinking, you know what? I mean, maybe I just get in the car and go back home because the kids are about to get out of school. I can go pick them up, And I'm at the parking meter at my car, deciding whether I'm going to plug the meter or just say screw this audition. It's just another audition, and this young guy comes up and he goes, "Oh, JK, why you?" And I was, at that time in my life, it was still somewhat surprising when somebody would encounter me on the street and know my name. So great to meet you, and blah, blah, blah. And I sort of reached out and shook this guy's hand, and it was clear to him the way I stared at him. I had no idea who he was. He goes, I'm Jason Reitman. I'm so sorry I'm late. And come on in. Let's do this thing. And, I semi-reluctantly went, yeah, okay, all right. Went in, had a little chat with Jason, and the rest obviously is history.
You actually auditioned that day?
Yeah. I mean, he confessed that he basically had me in mind, from very early on to play BR in Thank You for Smoking. And his one concern, I think, at the audition was, he said, listen, I'm a big fan of yours. I would love to work with you and have you play this part. He said, my concern is you're so well known for the Spider-Man. I think both the first two Spider-Man movies were out by then, maybe all three. And he said, and here you are playing another sort of, blustery boss. He said, how can we kind of avoid those inevitable comparisons? And I, like a smart ass, dumbass, said, I don't know. I mean, I could not have a flat top wig and smoke a cigar. And he went, yeah, okay. I guess we'll be good.
I mean, do you find it? Because I find it when you audition for something and you start this banter back and forth and it's fun and you're like talking, it's almost hard to then get into the audition because you're so, I mean, how do you transition into let's do the work here from, hey, how's it going? All right. Okay, let's do this. Would you rather just not say a damn word and just go into it?
Well, yeah. And of course, the first 30 years of my career, that's what happened. I was guy number 97 being ushered into the room and like, here's your name. And they find the resume and they go, ready, go. And you do the thing. So you didn't, because they didn't give a damn about who you were.
Right.
It was an awkward transition to that point where they have to, your agent has said, now he's done this and this and this. So you have to treat him with this level of, and those first many, dozens or hundreds of little lighthearted conversations with directors were really the hardest acting there was, because you're just trying to act like you're cool and relaxed. And in fact, you're just as nervous as you were at those cattle calls on West 46th Street, where you stood in the snow for 4 hours before the audition in New York. It was quite the transition. And now, to be in a position where, I'm so fortunate to not need a job. Those kinds of meetings are genuinely all about, like, are we on the same page? Obviously, I wouldn't be here if I didn't like the material. Do we want to go about it in ways that not necessarily exactly the same way, but can we collaborate on this effectively and not just get along, but have a vision or visions that merge or at least overlap.
Do you still get nervous? First of all, do you even audition anymore? I would assume you don't, but do you still ever have to? And if you do you still get nervous? Or and first days on set when you first deliver those first lines, or is there nerves, or are you just past that?
I don't audition anymore. There still are those meetings with directors that sometimes now are suggested by me because I read something that's interesting, but I want to make sure that we're on the same page. The nerves. I mean, that first day of school thing really never goes away, or never has for me. There's always that. I don't know if it's nerves so much as just I guess a little butterflies, a little kind of excitement about I'm shooting something right now down in Atlanta and working with people that I hadn't worked with before, and especially when it's it's a big movie star you haven't worked with before. You show up on set the first day, and there's always that as there always will be, I guess. at least for me, that kind of childlike naivete about I've seen you in the movies, you're a big star.
I do that too. Yeah, absolutely. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. When you're at your best, you can do great things, but sometimes life gets you bogged down and you may feel overwhelmed or like you're not showing up in the way you want to. Working with a therapist can help you get closer to the best version of you, because when you feel empowered, you're more prepared to take on everything life throws at you. And who couldn't use a few better coping skills to be able to handle all of life's curveballs? Look, if you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, flexible, affordable, and entirely online. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapist anytime for no additional charge. BetterHelp can help you be the best you possible. Try it today. If you want to live a more empowered life, therapy can get you there. Visit BetterHelp.com/inside today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/inside. Inside of You is brought to you by Rocket Money. Boy, is this interesting and so important. If your New Year's goals are to manage your budget better and save you money, you need Rocket Money. Say goodbye to last year's outdated, disorganized methods of managing your money and say hello to Rocket Money. The better way, folks. The better way to hack your finances in 2023. And Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill, is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. Now, listen, a lot of people don't know that on your Apple phone, you can go to subscriptions and you see all these subscriptions you have, and then you realize, oh my gosh, I've been spending all this money every month because I didn't cancel this or that. And we all do it. And you could be saving hundreds, thousands of dollars every year by just having this simple app, Rocket Money. Why wouldn't everybody want this? It just makes no sense. Look, over 80% of people have subscriptions they forget about, like that streaming service you bought, I bought, and I just watched one show. I do that. I just did that for Showtime. I just did that for Tubi or something. Or the free trial that you never used, and all of a sudden you're getting billed because the free trial is over. Not anymore. Rocket Money will quickly and easily identify your subscriptions for you so you can stop paying for the ones you don't want. Rocket Money makes canceling subscriptions as easy as a click of a button. Simply find the subscription you don't want and press cancel, and Rocket Money will cancel it for you. No more long hold times with customer service or tedious emailing. back and forth. We don't have time for this, folks. My business manager, yes, I have a business manager. Sounds pretentious, but like he texted me or emailed me. He says, I go, what am I spending so much money on every month? I don't understand. And he goes, well, I'll send you a list of the things. So it shows mortgage and it shows all these things. And then it starts listing all these things that I go, what? What's this? What's this app? What is I'm paying? And it was like $380 worth of crap. I couldn't get that money back. Rocket Money. Rocket Money. Stop throwing away your money. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/inside. That's rocketmoney.com/inside. One more time. rocketmoney.com/inside. Do this now. Look, we're going to get into, which is, in my opinion, the most important part of this podcast, when your brother David Simmons comes out and benefiting the UBU Project to prevent youth suicide, addiction, and bullying. It's the second annual Light Your Corner of the World with J.K. Simmons and David Simmons, who is the UBU founder. And that's Saturday, January 28th at 7:30 in the Desert Stages Theater in Scottsdale, Arizona. And that we're going to get him to talk about that, because on this podcast, we it's not just celebrity talk. I like to open up about, mental health and what we deal with as human beings. And I think why people still listen to the podcast is because they want to hear stories and realize that, even J.K. Simmons, he's a human being. He has dealt with rejection and anxiety, or maybe depression, or whatever it is, mental health. And obviously your brother knows a lot about that as well as you do. So we'll get into that. But, I look at your career and I'm just like, people don't look at the struggles. They don't understand how hard it can be. Some people, I've worked with people who they were an overnight success that just immediately, oh my God, and he's a star. And I'm one of those who've just kind of like, and I'm not a star, but it's one of those things where I did something that was okay, and then something that was shit, and then something that was pretty good, and then shit, then, oh, that was good. Then it's kind of been like that. It's fluctuated, but you've really gone through it. And you look at your resume, and I'm like, over 200 films, and you got Academy Award and a British Academy Award, and all these things. But you struggled. And I know that you've talked about this a lot, but I think it's interesting to hear, because how many times as a young actor did you think, I'm going to do something else. I'll be a teacher. I'll follow in my father's footsteps. I'll be a musical director. Were there those thoughts a lot, or did they never occur to you?
Well, there would have been more of those thoughts. First of all, I hesitate to use, with regard to myself, to use the word struggle, because, even in those early days where I was, not getting acting work or sporadically getting acting work, I was okay. I was just a single idiot, and all I needed was a slice of pizza and a friend's couch in Hell's Kitchen, and that's what I had a lot of the time. And I had friends, and I had the capability to go out and wait tables. I wasn't very good at it, but I was fine. To me, a struggle is a single mom, working two jobs and trying to be there for her kids, or whatever, a soldier in a trench somewhere. Those are the real struggles. Having said that, the difficult, times that I had trying to get a career going, I think if I genuinely had another truly viable skill set that I could have gone to, I might have done that, when I was here in New York in the early 80s, not finding acting jobs. And one time in particular, I remember not even, I was back in town after having done a regional theater job in somewhere, Buffalo or Cleveland or whatever it was, and not getting a job, not even getting much in the way of auditions. And then I, hit the streets looking for jobs, waiting tables. Couldn't even get that. I mean, it was like nobody was hiring, anywhere. And I'm walking up and down every street in Hell's Kitchen and Theater District, and complaining to my friend Greg Edelman, who's a Broadway guy here in New York and has done a lot of film and TV as well. And he brought over the 6-pack and we're hanging out and he's listening to me, whine about how tough things are. And the next morning, the phone rings, wakes me up. I go out to, look at the answering machine, and Greg left two $20 bills under my telephone, which was,
man.
I mean, that's a solid week of pizza at that time. So
Wow.
it was those kinds of little acts of kindness from friends that I look back on fondly and that I remember the most from that time.
I think we all have egos. I think you have to have some sort of ego to be in this business, to have this, I'm good, look at me, I want the attention. We all have that, no matter, some people will say, no, I just do it if I don't care about everybody else. And I think it's kind of bullshit. But, the ego thing, was there, at an early age, when you're in New York struggling and doing all these things, was there ever a big party that was like, how did they not see how fucking good I am?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I would phrase it exactly that way, but I mean, I by the time I got to New York, I had done, I'd started doing summer theater in Montana when I was in college at the Big Fork Summer Playhouse in Big Fork, Montana. Everybody go there. My brother and I both worked there. And then I spent a few years in Seattle after graduating with my music degree, not knowing what I was going to do. I still at that point thought maybe I have it in me to be an opera singer. But I just kind of auditioned for whatever came along, and I ended up being able to do a pretty nice variety of things. I was doing straight plays and musicals and playing the leading man and playing a wacky character part and really not being typecast as anything. Right. And then I get to New York and I'm going to these cattle calls for like a leading man role, and everybody in the line looks like Robert Redford. And I'm just kind of this guy who's just starting to admit that he's losing his hair. And then I go to a cattle call for some character part, and everybody in line looks like Marty Feldman, and they're all hilarious, and I'm like, where do I fit? How do I find work? And fortunately, I had a few casting directors in New York in those early days, Alan Filderman, Jay Binder, particularly those two guys who saw me as a versatile guy and saw me in different ways. And I was able to do all through my regional career. And I hope it's continued into my film and television career, as Jason Reitman alluded to, to be able to have opportunities to show different aspects of myself, different characters, different aspects of the human condition that we're all here trying to sort of shed some light on, and sometimes with humor.
Yeah. Did you have a good childhood? Were your parents very supportive of you, loving, unconditional love, proud of you? I didn't really get that, so I always ask people this question because I'm curious as to how it was in their childhood and how they grew up.
Yeah, well, never ask a question you don't know the answer to, right? Isn't that what they tell the lawyers and the interrogators?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. My brother and sister and I absolutely did. Our parents were incredibly supportive of whatever we were in. And of course, we're particularly delighted. Well, not of course, because you don't know our parents. But my father was a music teacher. They met in the chorus of a musical in college at Knox College in Illinois. Galesburg, Illinois.
Evansville, Indiana. I grew up in Indiana, Southern Indiana.
There you go. Yeah, well, we were, I was born in Detroit and, spent several years in Ohio. So we got that whole Midwestern thing going on.
We do.
But our parents obviously very supportive of our forays into the performing arts. And we all, my brother and sister both played instruments. My hands didn't connect to my brain very well in terms of that. But, we were all singing and sometimes performing in plays and this and that. And they were very supportive of that or whatever sports thing I was doing or, whatever academic thing. Or my sister just retired as a professor at the University of Washington. She inherited that the teacher gene from my father. My brother inherited all of the above, the performing artist and the teaching aspect. So that's a long-winded version of saying yes. Our parents were incredibly supportive and loving and understanding of what a career, any career, but especially a career in the performing arts, that it's going to take it a while to get off the ground, probably.
I remember I went to Western Kentucky University in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I think Dan Fogelberg sang about it. But I remember them coming to see me in a play, and they took me to Denny's because, we're a classy family. And we sat there, and I said, I'm going to be an actor. And my dad looked at me, and I never forget, he goes, eat your steak. I never forget it. That's what he said. I don't think anybody believed in me to do something like that. And I don't blame them. I don't blame people for going, look, small town, I wasn't popular. I was the shortest kid in school. I didn't know who I was. I was just out there. And if anybody you would have asked them what I would have done, they never would have thought I would have become a successful actor in Hollywood. Was there something, because for me, I've talked about it, but I did a play in high school, and I remember the popular kids in the hallway the next day saying, hey, you were funny, who never talked to me. And I said, oh, not being me. I've talked about this. Then that's the way I'll do it. And was there something that you remember, a moment of validation or applause that made you feel like I'm doing something right?
Well, there were hundreds, really. I mean, along the way, going back to, my classmates, my teammates from the football team in 8th grade, laughing when Kyle Lafferty and I played Tweedledum and Tweedledee in Alice in Foodland. And then I think the next year I played Bottom in A Midsummer Night's Dream. Actually not A Midsummer Night's Dream, all the Tinker scenes from A Midsummer Night's Dream, Pyramus and Thisbe, for those of you Shakespearean scholars out there. And just kind of, it was a great coming together of different aspects of society, in my junior high and high school. In those days, in the late 60s, early 70s, it was like, there were the jocks, there were the hippies,
the geeks,
there were the brainiacs, the geeks, there were the theater nerds, there were these little cliques, and they really didn't overlap. You couldn't be a jock and a hippie. And I was struggling with that because I was sort of pulled by a variety of different little micro societies there. And that was one of the few times where I felt like, not that I was consciously attempting to do that, but those little groups kind of intermingled, and there was a commonality there that was uncommon.
Right. I mean, it's just, one of your first roles you did, like All My Children, right? Like, I know you don't talk about that a lot, but like, I always find these soap operas, people go, oh, it's a soap opera. But the amount of dialogue these folks have to learn and
it was terrifying.
I couldn't do it. When I say that, I could not do that. I would explode. What was your preparation like trying to do something like that?
Well, I was very, very nervous. I think my first time on All My Children, I played a couple of different characters on that a few years apart. My first time I played a Canadian Mountie. And Erica Kane, for those of you who are familiar with Susan Lucci's character for 1,000 years on that show, was stranded on Cobbler's Island somewhere in the Great White North. And I was a Canadian Mountie, not like, Nelson Eddy, not wearing the red outfit, but, in the office. And I did my first episode, learned my lines, and she had more lines than I did. So it was just a question of not screwing up and, hitting your mark and just trying to be there and trying not to hyperventilate. And all the experience doing theater all those years and having those opening night jitters helped, I think, prepare me for that. The writing, of course, is not exactly, Shakespeare or Arthur Miller, but I felt like I pulled it off. I acquitted myself. Okay. I didn't soil my pants. I didn't, fall off my chair, and it was fine. And then I was called back. I was living with my aunt and uncle at the time, off and on, between their house in Westchester, where my 5 cousins grew up, or couch surfing in Hell's Kitchen, and my recurring line in my 3 or 4 episodes that I ended up doing was, "We can't get out to Cobbler's Island to rescue Erica Kane because it's fogged in." So I must have said 13 different times, "Did you tell him about the fog?" And I, of course, my brilliant actor brain realized after I had done my first episode, when I went back to do my second, "Oh, wait, I'm Canadian, eh? So I need to say, 'Did you tell him about the fog?'" And so this character that I was playing between the first episode and the second episode, which were probably a few episodes apart, in the grand scheme, I'm guessing some of the diehard All My Children fans kind of wondered, wait a minute, is this guy, it's the same guy, right? Why does he sound like a completely different human?
Knowing you probably did really a lot of research with that dialect or whatever.
Yeah. Of course, we didn't have computers at the time, so I was at the library reading about the RCMP. Yeah.
What year did you do A Few Good Men on Broadway?
1990. That was technically my second Broadway show. The first one was a little flop musical, and I joined the cast of A Few Good Men. They'd been running for several months, and I got hired to be the new understudy for the Colonel and the Doctor, which is a character who's not in the movie, so people won't know who that is.
Now, this is before the movie, right?
Well before the movie. It was, Aaron Sorkin was just some kid from Scarsdale who got lucky and had a play on Broadway. And, not lucky, happened to be a genius writer, but, nobody knew who he was. And aside from the couple of movie and TV actors that they had headlining both the original and then the replacements, when I joined, it was Brad Whitford in the Tom Cruise role.
Wow.
And the rest of the cast, Ron Perlman was playing the Colonel, whom I understudied. The rest of the cast were, relatively unknown New York theater guys.
Is this true that Aaron Sorkin heard that you were going up because you were the understudy and that you were going on to play Colonel Jessup, and he raced to the theater when he heard you were going on? And he was to this day, he said he was blown away by this powerful performance. And is it one of your favorite performances that you've done in your career that you can recall?
It absolutely is. Honestly, if I had to choose the one moment that was the most profound and meaningful to me as an actor, it was those 4 or 5 performances that I got to go on for Ron, who was incredibly generous, and Brad and the whole rest of the cast, who were so welcoming and opening and wonderful. And then the highlight of that being that Aaron came to see the show, and I don't recall if it was my first performance. I guess it probably was. And he that interaction is one of the most fulfilling moments of my career as an actor, because I his acknowledgement that I had fulfilled what he put on the page was all I've ever strived for as an actor.
This message is sponsored by Discover. Did you know you could reduce the number of unwanted calls and emails with online privacy protection? The latest innovation from Discover. Discover will help regularly remove your personal info, like your name and address, from 10 popular people search websites that could sell your data. And they'll do it for free. Activate in the Discover app. See terms and learn more at discover.com/online privacy protection. All I want, this is how selfish I am and childlike, is I'm first of all, I'm upset that I didn't see that performance, because knowing you in movies like Whiplash and the shows Oz and all these great performances you've done, I can only imagine you saying you can't handle the truth. And God, would I pay for you to be that intense, get back to that moment from 32 years ago and just say, you can't handle the truth. I would die to see that. Do you think when you watched Jack Nicholson do it, did you think I was right up there with him?
It was, I'll be 100% honest. Those of us who did the play saw the movie, as wonderful as it was, and we're like, the play was better.
Wow.
In many ways, and look, I'm not going to say, that's the beauty of part of the beauty of what we do. I mean, people like to hand out trophies and awards for the best actor and the best this and that, but the reality is it's about as apples and oranges as you can be. Jack Nicholson, when I played that part, I was 35 years old. That was what the character was that Aaron wrote in the play. Right. He was not a fat cat who was, sitting on his throne. I don't know how old Jack was when he did it, but he was, the character, because he was the guy playing it. I mean, because he was the guy playing it, it was brilliant. But it was a different character too, because he was an older guy. The character as written is a guy he's on his way to the White House, or he's at the very least going to be Secretary of Defense,
right? Or
a senator. I mean, he's a guy who's on his way somewhere, not a guy who's settled in to this is, I'm the king of this domain and that's it. So that to me was the fundamental difference between those characters. Those versions of that character?
Right. How do you I look at you and you have a great childhood and you're a great husband and father. I assume I'm not your children, but how do you find that place and where do you go to when you snap, when you become that guy in Whiplash, when you become Jessup, when that moment comes? How do you go into that dark place? And did you ever experience such darkness that helped you with that moment or those moments?
I honestly, I think, however, easy and privileged and full of love, your childhood and your life is, we all have difficulties. We all have disappointments. We all have things that, break our hearts or piss us off. We all have things that we're, an anger, I think, that we carry around to some extent. The common thread, and people shake their heads at this, but between those three characters that you mentioned and what is to me so important as an actor almost always is that for Lieutenant Colonel Nathan Jessup in A Few Good Men, for Fletcher in Whiplash, for Vern Schillinger in Oz, those incredibly deeply angry, powerful men with their powerful emotions, it all comes out of love. However twisted that love may be, in Vern Schillinger's place, it's like, boy, I love me some white people, that's the way he views his philosophy, his worldview.
Yeah.
Not that I hate this, that I love that.
Right.
In Colonel Jessup's place, so brilliantly written. Unit, core, God, country. That's what he loves in that order, and that's what motivates everything he does, including the illegal, dangerous, horrible, immoral stuff, and the justification for it. It's always, Fletcher loves jazz so much and is seeking perfection every second of his waking life that when anybody or anything gets in the way of that, his love for that, then they're going to, by God, hear about it.
Have you ever really snapped like one of these characters in real life? Have you ever lost your mind?
A few times, mostly when I'm in the car by myself on the 101. But a very few times at work, and not quite to that extent. Not throwing any of those on set
tantrums,
rampages that we unfortunately have seen on video of whoever.
Yeah.
But I mean, and it's usually comes from a place of either, what I in the moment see as some kind of artistic integrity that is being compromised, or just a personal, just meanness or unkindness coming from, somebody in power, whether it's a director or producer or whatever it may be. And those are the handful of times that I have raised my voice and said things that I look back and wish that I'd maintained my composure a little better. Fortunately, as far as I know, there were no cameras rolling during those times. There may be audio recordings out there. And I mean, there are times in real life when I was whatever, heartbroken or betrayed or whatever, when I was lost control. Fortunately, there's the person that I was born to be and the person that my parents raised. I never lost it enough to take it out on somebody in a way that was that you couldn't take back.
Right. I just think of my father's voice when he snapped, when he was angry, and that's where I can channel it, because it was the most terrifying thing. I'd rather him do anything but yell at me. Like it would go from he was just a big guy, and that's just like when he got mad, he'd be like, it would go from, I'm not going to tell you again, from there to, what did I, he would get so enraged, and I would like, and that's sort of how I channel that whenever I have to flip out. Whiplash, quickly. There's few roles, not many roles that I've seen where I say, not that I can't do it, but how did he do that? How, like, it seems almost impossible. Like the role you played, the dialogue, the snappy, the turning on a dime, emotions changing, boom, 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 beep, beep, beep. It's not just, to me, the best performance of the year that you won the Oscar, and I'm not kissing your ass. It's just a fact that I know a lot of actors, most actors would say, it was one of the best performances I've ever seen in anything I've ever seen. And what was your work ethic to prepare this?
Well, I've been preparing for that my whole life. When I first met Damien, Jason Reitman sent me the script for the short and the feature film of this thing called Whiplash by this kid nobody had ever heard of. I have, by this time, I'm in that position where we're like, I'm not auditioning, quote unquote, but we're gonna go meet, right? We're gonna have lunch. I'm gonna meet this Damien Chazelle. Now, first of all, I read this script, and it is, up there with, A Few Good Men, Juno. It's up there with the most brilliant things I've ever read and potentially had the opportunity to be a part of, including Shakespeare and everything else I did over the years. So I want to do it. And we're having a meeting to spend a 3-day weekend making a short film for which everybody's going to get paid $173. But none of that matters because it's sheer brilliance, and I want to be a part of it. We set up a meeting at the old Daily Grill, which no longer exists.
We're on the top floor. Yeah, of course.
We're going to have lunch there. And I have this image of Damien Chazelle. It's a brilliant, brilliant script, obviously written by somebody who has an inside understanding of jazz music and what it is. Jazz music, a quintessential American art form, particularly African American art form. And I hear the name Damien Chazelle, and I'm going to this meeting, and I'm looking for Antoine Fuqua, right? I'm looking for some big, tall, impressive black guy with a beret or something. That's my impression of who Damien Chazelle must be, having written this. And I'm I get to the Daily Grill like right on time, and I'm looking around, and I don't see Antoine Fuqua, and then this skinny little kid from Jersey, kind of raises his hand and go, JK, and I go, oh, wow, okay, hi, Damien Chazelle, how are you? We sit down, we start doing the mutual admiration thing, and one of the first things he says is, I want to take the onus off of you as far as the technical aspects of this character, because I want you as the actor. Okay. If we'll have a technical advisor, we'll have a body double who can do the conducting and the long shots. He said, don't worry about those aspects of it. And I looked at him, I'm sure a little bit oddly. And I said, dude, I went to music school. I have a degree in music. I thought I was going to be a composer and conductor.
Oh my God.
And my father was a choir conductor, his entire career. I said that's, and he was like, there's some kismet going on here. That's amazing. He also wrote it with Miles Teller in mind. He didn't write it for me. He just, when Jason suggested me, he went, oh, that's a great idea. He wrote it with Miles in mind, not knowing that Miles had been playing drums in cheesy rock bands, ever since he was in 8th grade. So, I mean, the combination of
Wow.
A lifetime of preparedness that brought the three of us together on that project was, it really was one of those just meant to be.
Were you tough to work with on that particular role? Were you method? Were you like, I want to be this guy, I want everybody around me to be intimidated? Or were you just jovial and happy J.K. Simmons?
Dude, we had so much fun on that shoot.
God.
I mean, you had to, because we we shot that whole thing in like 17 days.
Oh,
it was insane. The budget and the compression of time that created. And fortunately, Damien's brilliance and everybody who came together on that to make it work. But I mean, we're shooting those kind of crazy, stupid 15, 16 hour days on that movie. And Miles, who, as we now know, is an alpha, right, is playing that meek character. I'm playing the character that I played. Damien is this young filmmaker who actually, between the short film and the feature, the short film, which was with Johnny Simmons in the Miles Teller part, by the way, who was brilliant in a very different way than Miles was brilliant. But the three of us on the feature, just had a great time. Just were, and Damien gave us the freedom, as brilliant as the words were on the page. Damien gave us the freedom to just go off, and improvise and do our thing. And the combination of the brilliance and the structure that he provided, but allowing for, us, the self-expression that we both wanted to bring. I mean, it was magic in a bottle. And then in between takes, we just immediately dropped it, and Miles would go into the I'm not really a pussy, and we would it was a very different very different, like, fun vibe on set.
Well, we started a little late. I'm going to get your brother out here and talk about really important shit here in a minute. But I just want to ask a few more quick questions. When you went up for your Oscar speech, was there part of you that was thinking it's about effing time? Or was there, because you're so humble, everybody's so sweet and nice when they give these speeches, and your message of the call your mom, it was just, I mean, it resonated. But I mean, were you kind of like, did you feel like, I've always felt like I didn't belong, like I don't belong here, I don't belong in Hollywood. Did you ever feel like I don't really belong here, I don't really belong with this? Or what was your feelings when you went up on stage?
No, I still feel like I don't belong.
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't, there was no, it's about time that ever entered my mind. And I've had a complicated relationship going back to childhood with the whole concept of awards for, artistic endeavors. And that's a whole different podcast.
Right.
Right. But it was basically everybody that I knew who really understands the ins and outs of awards season and all of that. I mean, everybody said, dude, there's no way it's not going to be you. So there was, and I had won every trophy, 2 trophies a week in the 2 months leading up to that. So it was, it was like if they say, and the Oscar goes to, and they don't say my name, I'm a schmuck, because that's the expectation,
right.
So it was, it was almost a relief when they did say it. And then, as had been my want that whole award season, I never quote unquote, wrote a speech. I didn't know exactly what I was going to say. All I knew was the theme, what I wanted to focus on, which in that case was what's really important, which is family. And started out talking about my wife and thanking her for everything that she is, and then our kids who were in the balcony, and then their relationship, her being such an extraordinary mother, which led me to talk about my mom, our moms, everybody's mom and dad, and that how important all those relationships are. And it was really maybe the most rewarding aspect of my career. That was certainly the biggest audience I was ever in front of. 100 times more people saw the Oscars than saw Whiplash. Wow. So I was reaching this broad audience, and the feedback that I got from that, I mean, from comical to like deeply moving to life altering interactions that people had with their parents as a result of some journeyman bald character actor telling them to call their mom and dad. It was amazing.
Would you do another Spider-Man if Sam Raimi approached you?
Absolutely.
Did you love it?
I would do anything that Sam Raimi approached me with.
You loved working with him that much.
I mean, almost anything.
Almost anything. I could talk to you for ages. I mean, you're just like, you're incredible. You're so open, and we're going to get a little more open now. I'm going to bring on your brother.
Howdy.
How are you, David Simmons?
I am fabulous. Hello, my fabulous
looks like
brother.
me with even less hair.
Who's older?
Depends on the day.
Bro.
You're the big bro? David, was he a good big bro?
He was an excellent big brother. My favorite big brother story is he watched me sleep through a fire in our shared bedroom in Worthington, Ohio, as he and our mutual father were beating at it with like wet towels and things, and smoke was clearing, and they look over and there I am.
Oh my God.
Sleep apnea.
He was a sound sleeper.
Yes.
Look, David, you're the executive director of the UBU Project. I mean, you have an awesome musical career. You've been in all 50 states across the world, honors graduate at the University of Montana School of Music, another school of music with your brother, actor, director, teacher, artist. I mean, it goes on. Mental health advocate is the most important, probably, and keynote speaker that I believe, especially for this podcast and for the world.
Excellent.
Listening. I mean, and by the way, you performed with REO Speedwagon. That was,
I did. That was cool. That was, there's a cool, an even cooler thing is my very dear friend, Walt Verson was their road manager at the time. Lots of long stories as to how we met, but I had written and recorded a little demo of a song. He played it for them. God. They show up in the dressing room of a show I'm doing. I get a text, David, come meet us at the stage door. I walk there, not quite ready to go on stage. And there I meet my high school heroes in my t-shirt and shorts. Hi, heroes.
Oh, yes.
And they have learned a song I wrote. So we played that at So we played that at an after show cabaret, which usually has 10 people there. 100 people are there. And, they're going nuts. It's a good song. And, crowd's going nuts, and I'm looking at the guys, and they're smiling. I said, "You want to do another one?" And the bass player, like a kid in a candy store, "Can we do Mustang Sally?"
Oh my God!
Yes, we can. Choose a key. Somebody count to 4. It was an awesome experience.
What's your favorite, really quick, REO Speedwagon song? The both of you.
For me, Riding the Storm Out, without question.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue.
Is it weird that mine's heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend?
Ballad pussy.
Stop.
I am. You
That's
know
just
me. I swear to God.
That's just another stalker song. That's right up with Every Step You Take.
Every step you take, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is I had Steve Lukather on the podcast, who's obviously one of the best guitarists in the world from Toto.
Absolutely.
And he said the same thing, JK. I said, I just love, that song, Some People Live Their Dreams. He goes, you're such a pussy. You like these love ballads. He said the same thing, but I do. All right, on to important things.
All right.
The UBU Project is just it's stunning, and
Thank you.
David, you're a survivor. I mean, you've hit rock bottom. You know what it's like. You've been there. So there's no better person to sort of head this mission than you. And I just think it's wonderful. Why don't you just tell me a little bit something about the project and what you're doing?
Well, very quickly, and yes, thank you. Being a suicide attempt survivor, thriving survivor, as I refer to myself, is a very powerful thing. March 31st, 2009, I thought the world didn't need me anymore, and God and a bunch of doctors thought otherwise. And, 7.5 weeks on a psych ward, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward to 2016 or 17. JK is helping me put together a new CD of music I've been writing. And I'm driving across the Phoenix Valley, and I hear on the radio in an interview the statistic that the leading cause of death for youth ages 10 to 14 in the state of Arizona was suicide.
Unreal.
And I was galvanized. I thought, okay, I am a musician. I'm a songwriter. I'm a teacher. I've done all these amazing things. And more important, I'm a survivor. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I got bullied, blah, blah, blah. What does this all look like together? And so I thought about it for a while, kept recording the album. JK sang on it. And then JK and I and my friend Walt, who was the road manager of REO Speedwagon, I don't believe in coincidence, but we all happened to be in LA when JK was filming Counterpart. And so we're hanging out in his trailer and we're talking about this thing. And he and Walt went, well, of course you need to do this. And, what are we going to call it? And we came up with this name and that name. And the phrase UBU had been a part of my professional life before. And I thought about, and I said, what do you think? UBU Project? And they went, yeah. And so what I did was based on a model that our mutual mother used to do a lot. She was the head of artists in the schools for the Montana Arts Council. And she would send, theater companies or a poet or a jazz musician, all of these, top tier people who just got tired of the rat race and wow, paid vacation in Montana. You bet. And I created this 1 week residency model where I go in on a Monday. I talk to the kids, depending on the school I'm working with. Sometimes I tell a little bit of my story about suicide survival and all that stuff. Sometimes I don't. It depends on what the school wants to do. And for a week, we have this ongoing conversation about what hope and resilience and self-compassion and empathy mean to the kids. I never define it once for them. And at the end of the week, the whole time, and this is all wrapped in the guise of they think they're in a songwriting workshop, which they are, but it's a parlor trick because they've chosen one of those 4 words. I call them treasure chest words. They've chosen one of those 4 words as the main topic of their song. And by Friday, they've written a song. Sometimes it's just a chorus and a verse, maybe a couple of verses and a bridge are thrown in there. But 2 of my favorite stories are there was a bunch of 5th graders. Reminder, these kids are 10 years old. They're writing a song about hope. And I use, this makes me sound a lot more educated than I am. I use Shakespeare's sonnet structure as my songwriting structure because it's easy. 4 sentences, 4 lines in any verse, 10 syllables per line. There's a rhyme scheme. The kids have a framework to hang their creativity. And so I say, okay, all right, we're talking about hope and this, that, da, da, da. What's a good, opening sentence? What's the opening line of our song that is just going to make the audience, oh my God, I need to hear more. And this one girl raised her hand and I could see by her face, she had lived a lot more in 10 years than I had in 60. And she said, I hope that I get over my depression. And I said, okay, I understand that. I live with, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety. I work with a therapist all the time. Are you seeing someone? Yes, blah, blah, blah. I congratulated her, told her I was proud. I said, okay, great. Now, is it your depression? Does it define you? Or is it just something you have to deal with? And she thought for a second and she said, no, it doesn't define me. I said, good, because your sentence is 11 syllables long and we need to get rid of 1 syllable. What's 1 syllable that we can get rid of? And she said, let's get rid of my let's do. And so again, room full of 10-year-olds came up with, and of course it's an 80s power ballad because that's the style they chose for it. Yeah. And they came up with, I hope that I get over depression because it makes me not love myself yet. That is definitely my conclusion. That's why I need some time to have a rest. 10-year-olds are teaching me about life balance. In the chorus, they came up with Shine as sort of the go-to thing. Shine, hope shines light on depression. Shine, hope shines giving me compassion. Shine, hope takes away my obsession. And then I'm going, okay, we need one more. And this little kid, like Horshack and Welcome Back Kotter back in the 70s. Oh, Mr. David. What? And I could see the words coming from his brain to out his mouth. He goes, hope shines light on depression like a diamond. And I went, dude.
Wow.
40 years of writing songs. Never once have I come up with a mic drop like that.
I'm surprised Jay-Z didn't come up with that.
Just happens to be on my new album that's coming out in a couple of weeks.
I mean, it's amazing. You're pretty much saying that music is saving lives.
Absolutely.
That, so the UBU Project augments a school's existing curriculum with songwriting and music to help students address difficult topics. It's amazing because I've always dealt with depression and anxiety, and I've hit lows. I haven't hit as low as obviously you have gone.
Thank God, man.
But I had those thoughts, and then I said, whoa, stop it. But, tell me just a little bit about, were you depressed growing up? When did this sort of happen? When did it hit you? When were you aware of it? And JK, when were you aware that your brother was struggling?
Probably when I slept through a fire in our bedroom. That's a great question. I wasn't really aware of it because, as JK will attest, as our sister will too, we had a great childhood. Parents, amazing, supportive, beautiful. We figured out while I was on the psych ward after my attempt in 2009 that there was something that happened in my childhood around age 9 or 10 that my child brain couldn't deal with.
I blocked it.
And it could, it can be anything as simple as, a kid said something mean in a cafeteria to, I got beat up by a family member. And it was neither of those two things because I never talk about the specifics. But my brain, the incident happened here and my brain just kept spiraling the rest of my life. And so in the hospital, they went through a variety of diagnoses and they finally landed on major depressive disorder recurrent. And I was already dealing with free-floating anxiety and PTSD. And they figured out, and JK, remember my 50th birthday on the psych ward?
Super fun.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Great time. And our mutual sister, who's sort of the family historian, among other things, had put together you're 50. Here's David Simmons. Here is your life scrapbook. Because, we had been planning on celebrating my birthday. Not on the psych ward, but but while I was there and looking at that scrapbook, pictures from birth to almost death, and they figured out that I had been dealing with untreated major depressive disorder since I was 10, and it was just untreated, therapist, never quite figuring it out. And then after my attempt and getting out of the hospital, and the arts, by the way, saved my life, literally. I mean, my brother was a huge part of it because I remember they called my wife at the time and said, what can we do for him? And she said, just talk to him. And I remember I don't know if you remember this, Kim, one specific phone call where he called and it was an hour of him going, how about them Tigers? Keep this guy, some synapses firing. And then a producer, 3 months out of the psych ward, hired me to do a national tour. It was a small role. And while I was on that tour, he had also hired me to play Theodore Roosevelt in a one-person show. And so on that tour, I memorized a 1-hour script. And it was that process that got new synapses firing and things like that. So, I look back to something as early as at my 50th birthday on the psych ward, JK bought me a guitar. And that was one of the tools I used as I was recovering on the ward.
Yeah.
And kept playing, and I would do these tours that weren't guitar tours. They were, sort of traditional musical comedy, which is great. but I would always have a guitar with me.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, 2017 or so, I was galvanized I knew I had to do something. I had to take all my experiences, all my training, everything, and focus it on something that to this day, I haven't found another organization that does what we do. There's a lot of great organizations out there, but
yeah, it amazes me. I think people don't think about not just themselves when they go through this and it's all the horrors that I'm going through, but what weight it puts on family. So JK, were you shell shocked? Was it something that you had any inkling of, like, knowing that he was suffering or dealing with this stuff? What were your emotions like?
Well, you're talking about that 50th birthday in the psych ward. I mean, that, off and on over the years. And of course you look back, he's 10, I'm 14, and we were, a lot of the time that we were growing up, we were in very different circles. We almost never went to the same school together until we were, because it took me forever to graduate college until we ended up as college not classmates, but together at University of Montana. So, I'm 14 years old. I'm this, I'm adolescent consumed with all the things that adolescents are consumed with. And my little brother is just my little brother. He's just this little kid who's always been there. And, sometimes he's a pain in the ass and sometimes we're having fun together. But he's, he's enough younger that we're in completely different, like, social spheres, it's easy to look back now and see, that he has off and on been troubled, and that there have been times when that's gotten the best of him, as it does almost all of us, at one time or another. And then, some of the stuff he lived through as an adult, some of the difficulties, the heartbreaks, the problems that, again, in and of themselves are I don't want to say unremarkable, but I mean, we all go through shit, right? And your proclivity, your mental health, is affected to a different degree depending on a variety of things. Obviously, none of us, even during times of particularly sort of tempestuous times when there was concern about, is David okay? It never occurred to any of us how not okay he was at that time. And when you have a family, a birth family that's as loving and as close knit as we were with our parents, and our parents who were also like the world's best grandparents. David has a son. I have 2 kids. Our sister has 3 kids, and now multiple grandkids. For us all to be just completely gobsmacked by that, and having already made plans to go to Minnesota and celebrate his 50th, big milestone birthday, and then finding ourselves there with this shell of a human being, who was, something that I hadn't seen, made me understand and appreciate some of the good work in Cuckoo's Nest more so, because to look at your brother's eyes and not see your brother was difficult and sobering, and I think, as is the case for a lot of people, when someone you love is in that level of pain and difficulty, we all tend to blame ourselves to some extent. How did I not see that? How am I so self-consumed that that I don't see the pain of those around me? And coming full circle, that's one of the things that he's teaching now to these kids who just think they're having fun writing songs for a week. One of the tools he's giving them is that not only that self empathy, but the compassion. I mean, we joke about it, but it's an absolutely true phrase to say that he's saving the world one kid at a time, and every week that he's out there doing that, he's so, that ripple effect, that butterfly effect is kicking in, and he's having effect on the lives of people that he'll never meet.
That's beautiful. David, a few minutes ago when you were talking about how you have a tendency as a child to block out those really dark times somehow to protect yourself. I think that's what the body does. I had an experience where, I was in a situation where it was uncomfortable, where I was almost molested to the point where it was a dark, scary story. I won't get you into that, but I escaped. And I was supposed to be at my grandparents' bungalow upstate, like I was a little boy, and I was just like a few bungalows away. And I remember I had an hour, and it had only been like 35 minutes, but I knew as a little boy, as an 8-year-old kid maybe, that I can't go into the bungalow to my grandparents right now, and because they can't see the way I am right now because I was so shook. Somehow I knew. And I had to gather myself. And I remember sitting behind this tree for like 30 minutes to compose myself. Wow. And went in. And from that day, I blocked that moment out for 20 years. And so I know what it's like to be a child who feels like they don't want to be shamed or it's their fault. And that's why I didn't tell anybody. And even though nothing really happened, it still devastated me. And I didn't. And I think a lot of kids deal with not only that, bullying and molestation, whatever it is, dysfunctional families, and we block out a lot of stuff, and it resurfaces when we get older, and it's how we deal with it. So, it's to be able to get kids at a young age to sort of be in touch with their feelings is not an easy task. And it seems like through music, you're able to at least break the surface or whatever and tap into a little bit to give them some comfort and kind of healing.
Well, and sorry, I'm butting in here, but that's the brilliance of what David has designated as the toolkit. He gives these kids tools which again they think is about songwriting. And it is. And there have been some great songs that have come out of it. But he's giving them the tools to dig out of whatever hole it is that they're in, and again having that effect on a number of kids on a weekly basis.
Didn't this organization, this foundation, sort of start, and how many kids have joined? Isn't it like something astounding, like 7,000 kids now are part of a program or something? Tell me if I'm wrong.
Right. It's not like a traditional arts program where I work with all these arts kids. Our wheelhouse is, Mrs. McGillicuddy's 4th grade classroom. And there may be a couple of artsy kids in there, but it's mostly creating common ground in a safe space so kids with no experience or lots of experience feel safe and comfortable creating all this stuff. We started in our hometown of Missoula, Montana in September of 2018. We're coming up on our 5th year. We have in the classroom itself, one-on-one, in the classroom with kids. That specifically, we're at about 5,000. But if you include all the virtual work we did during the pandemic, conferences and things like that, we're at about 15 to 20,000 people who have experienced, some call it a toolkit. I refer to it as a treasure chest because it's something the kids already have. And I say, it's already there. And, I work with kids in juvenile detention. A lot of them say, I have no hope. And I say, yeah, you do. You just don't know where it is. And we're going to try and find it. And very quickly, amazing. Speaking of cool songs, this is also on my new album. The kids I worked with in juvenile detention wrote a tune called Don't Give Up on Life about resilience. And one of the things I do, all the Spanish I know, I have learned from my students. And so if I have a number of bilingual students, I'll say, let's translate this, or what do you want to do? And so they came up with, the chorus they came up with was, and I also learned a new style called jalea, which is a kind of Mexican music. And the chorus of their song is, don't give up on life, everything will change. Don't give up on life, everything will change. En la vida no te rindas, anything can be the light if you push through and fight. Don't give up on life, en la vida no te rindas, And then in the recording, I do my best,
That
cheat
is
Carlos Santana. But yeah.
That's
These
beautiful.
are a bunch of kids. And I got a note from a kid. I'm getting goosebumps. You can't fake goosebumps. I got a note from a kid in juvie. His first name is Eddie. I can say that. And it was instead of one of the notes we got from a junior high kid was, lately I've been thinking of killing myself, but you teached me about hope. What do you do with that? But this kid wrote this long letter of, Dear Dave, because we're pals now. Dear Dave, I've been thinking a lot about what you talked about, and I get it now. I understand hope. And my plan is 10 years from now, when I'm out of here, I'm going to prove them wrong. I'm going to prove the people wrong who told me I'd end up in prison like my birth parents. I'm going to show up at their door with my wife and my kids and my job and say, I'm proving you wrong. I made something of myself. And I'm like, good Lord, that's my Christmas bonus.
This is an outlet. This is another outlet
Absolutely.
that I don't think a lot of people are aware of. And I'm so happy and glad and, just thankful that you came up with this idea and that you're working to help these children around the world with this, because I think it's something that's ignored. I didn't know these statistics. I didn't know 10 years old to 14 suicidal. How could it be that much? It's just overwhelming. So lastly, to let you guys go, and I know you got to go, but the benefit is the UBU Project to Prevent Youth Suicide, Addiction, and Bullying. It's the second annual Light Your Corner of the World with J.K. Simmons and David Simmons. The date is Saturday, January 28th. It's coming up very soon. So you really need to go. It's at 7:30 at the Desert Stages Theater in Scottsville, at the Fashion Square. You can go to www.desertstages.org. It's spelled DESERT because I would have spelled it dessert. Stages.org. 480-483-1664. This is a beautiful thing. We're going to post this. We're going to get awareness out there. I love the both of you. I don't even know you, but I feel like, you guys are just remarkable human beings. Thanks for your stories. Thanks for just being you and helping people. That's it.
Let me just wedge in there that anybody that can't get to Scottsdale on January 28th, you can just go to the UBU Project online and find ways that you can help.
Yeah, please go. Please go. There's a lot of people listening, a lot of them that deal with mental, illnesses and just, I know they're going to love this episode. This is just an important one. So thank you, JK. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
And all my love to you both.
Thank you, Michael, and all my love to both of you, especially JK, and I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Love you, my brother. See you soon.
Love you.
Bye, guys. Well, not only was it a great interview, but a great cause.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. I was stunned by that that statistic that the deaths in Arizona, ages 10 to 14, the number one cause was suicide.
That's terrible.
And but hearing these guys talk about it, and I just think it's, we think therapy, I always promote BetterHelp therapy, which is amazing, and exercise and all these things, and maybe seeing a psychiatrist and getting the right meds and all these things that you can do. But then you start doing something which what they do, this organization, UBU, which is it's a creative thing. It's getting someone who doesn't necessarily have to have any music background at all and learning how to be creative and just writing lyrics and speaking from their heart and writing down and creating things that they didn't think they could create. And it's kind of exploded like this organization. And so it's just awesome. JK and David, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And that's about all I have to say about that.
It's good. He's a legend.
He's a legend.
What a get.
What a get. Great episode coming up next week, too. We've got a lot of great guests coming up this year, and I hope people continue to tune in, keep this podcast going. If not, I'll have to take down all these posters and make this into a bedroom or something. It's not a podcast room anymore. But thanks for all the support, and a big shout out to all my patrons. They really support this podcast. Without them, I couldn't do it. Go to patreon.com/inside of you. Become a patron today. There's top tiers. One of the tiers is I send you packages, gift packages every couple of months, and a little note from me. And there's Q&As with me online. We do a private YouTube for all the patrons. And there's a bunch of stuff there. So go to patreon.com/inside of you. I'll message you as soon as I can, thanking you. And we really need the patrons to keep this thing going. So I can't thank you guys enough. And without further ado, why don't we get into the top tier patrons, Ryan?
Okay.
Should we do that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Nancy D, Leah,
S.
Sarah,
V.
Little,
Lisa.
you,
Kiko.
Jill,
E.
Brian,
H.
Nico,
P.
Robert,
C. B.
correct, Jason,
W.
Sophie,
M.
Kristen,
K.
Raj,
C.
Joshua,
D.
Jennifer,
N.
Stacy,
L.
Jamal,
F.
Janelle,
B.
Kimberly,
E.
Mike,
E.
Eldon,
Supremo.
99,
More.
Santiago,
M.
Chad,
D. W. W.
Chad W, Leanne,
P.
Janine,
R.
Maya,
P.
Maddie,
S.
Belinda,
N.
Chris,
N. T. O.
Chris,
H.
Dave,
H.
Sheila,
G.
Brad,
D.
Ray,
H.
H, Harada, Tabitha,
T.
good going here, Tom,
N.
Liliana,
A.
Talia,
M.
Betsy,
R. D.
I own
I own?
Luther Corp. That's a new one. I
know
own
that one.
Luther Corp. What's up, Dan?
A. S. N.
Yes, and Angel,
M.
Rhiannon,
C.
Corey,
K.
Dev,
Nexon.
Michelle,
Also K.
A,
Damn.
Jeremy,
C.
Brandy,
R.
D,
D.
Camille,
M.
S,
S.
Joey,
I don't know.
M, Eugene N,
Leah.
Corey, Heather, think famous actress. Heather,
L.
yes, Heather Locklear. Jake, think Busey.
B.
Correct. Megan.
Trainer.
Megan T
T?
is correct. Mel.
C.
S.
S.
Orlando.
C.
Caroline.
R.
Christine.
S.
Eric.
H.
Shane.
R.
Emma.
R.
Andrew.
M.
Zatuichi. 70.
77. Wow.
Andreas.
San.
N.
Oh.
Oracle. Karina.
N.
Amanda.
R.
Jen.
B.
Kevin.
B.
E.
E.
Stephanie.
K.
Lena. 82.
Dunham. Oh.
Billy.
S.
Jammin'. Just think Jammin' J.
Jammin' J.
Leanne.
Leanne J.
Correct.
Huh.
Luna.
O.
R.
R.
Cindy. Think Cindy. E.
E.
Correct. Mike.
E.
F. Think
F.
Mike Flanagan. Stone H.
Stone H.
Think Stonehenge.
Stonehenge, not Stone.
Brian L. Cameron.
Uh-huh.
E and Katie B. You got like 90%.
That was a lot. Jesus. Well, a lot of them have been here for a long time.
Yes, but you got a lot.
There's
some
a
new
rhythm
ones.
to it. There's a music to it.
We love you. We couldn't do this podcast without you. I've said it before. Thank you, patrons. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Ryan,
Yo,
from the Hollywood Hills in Hollywood, California, I'm Michael Rosenbaum.
I'm Ryan Tez.
And a little wave to the camera. We love you guys. And remember, please, please, please be good to yourselves. That's the most important thing. Be good to yourself. I'll see you next week. And even if you don't know the guest, I know you're going to come back and visit. All right. Take care.